fast, free delivery from the Home Depot makes your projects hassle-free. Forget something you need? Visit HomeDepot.com or the Home Depot app for free delivery on millions of products, including same-day and next-day options. Get delivery at the speed you need, only at the Home Depot. How doers get more done. Order select in-stock items by 4 p.m., subject to availability.
We have been told that we are the big boys in town.
Well, he's yapping. He's into it. I'm talking about he is like lit.
I'm trying to start preaching.
Let everybody say amen.
I can get chills a little bit thinking about what these two guys can do.
Welcome, everybody. The Falcons Audible presented by AT&T is back, and your crew is back. That's right, everybody. We told you that we would be back when there would be breaking news that happened with the organization, and boy, has it ever been a busy month of January. Yes, we are into February, but pretty much everything has happened in January. By the way, for those that are joining us via video, that's DJ Shockley, Dave Archer. I'm Derek Rackley. Those that are joining audio, well, you're just going to have to envision which one I was pointing at.
Three of the best looking guys you've ever seen in your life right there.
That was very good, and you went with that very professional broadcaster
voice.
Voice.
You like that? Yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
Every now and then I can bring it up.
So we are back. But before we get into all of the action that has happened with the Atlanta Falcons organization, it is Super Bowl week.
Super Bowl.
And so do us a favor in the comments. Tell us who you're picking for the game this week and why. Okay? Who do you got? You got Patriots. You got Seahawks. You got a skin in the game. I'm hearing it from different sides, from people at work, from my friends and everything. It's like, oh, I got a friend that's a big Seahawks fan. Well, my buddy, he's a huge Patriots fan. Yeah. Which one are you? Or what do you think is going to happen in the game this week? Now, we are not going to give our picks on the game. Well, we may or may not. But what we are going to do is talk a little bit about Super Bowl week festivities.
Ooh.
All right? Let's start with you, Shock. You got anything going on for the game this week? Anything fun? Anything on the agenda? Anything on the menu?
So I am on the fence right now because I like to host. You know, you like to have a good time, have people over, but then there's always you got like a host. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, it's a compliment. So I haven't decided yet if we're going to have like people over and do the whole food and all that kind of stuff. But if we do, of course, we have a good spread. We have a good assortment of things that you can partake in, whether it's, you know, beverages that you would like to drink, but also a lot of different food items. But for me, I'm a simple dude when it comes to the spread. My wife makes this really good like dip. It's like chicken, rotel, all this kind of stuff. And it's really good. You can have nachos, all that kind of stuff to go with it. Dang. Or you got wings, you got pizza, you got all the different flavors.
Wow.
Pepper, my guy. So, yeah, we have a little assortment
of stuff.
Smorgasbord. No charcuteries, though. We don't do charcuteries at the house.
Hey, what time, dog? What time?
Like I said, I'm on the fence. I don't know.
I got my mouth watering a little bit over here.
Well, when we're putting this game together, it is a Wednesday, and we're just days away from the game. So how late before the Shockley invitation goes out?
Are you going to invite everybody on Saturday night?
48 hours, bro. I give them 48 hours. If people want to pull up, they going to pull up. Hey, I hit them with a little text. Hey, look, we got something going on in the crib. You want to come through, watch Super Bowl? Boom. There it is. That's how it works.
Let's read between the lines here, okay? 48 hours before Super Bowl, one of the most maybe anticipated appointment-type viewing gatherings, if you will.
That's pretty good.
He's basically saying, I don't really want you to come over because everybody's going to have plans by 48 hours before the game.
Hey, bro, you have to choose. You know what I'm saying? So you want to go there, you want to come here?
He's saying you're going to have to cancel your plans if you want to come over.
If you want to pull up to
eat,
you want to eat the wings and pizza and dip, that's what you got to do.
And then you got to get through the deciding factor, too, which is Portia, his wife. She's going to decide who gets to come in, so.
Yeah, what it is, man. You know what I'm saying?
You turn people away at the door?
Man, that kind of guy, man.
Okay.
Hey, more than merry. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have fun. You know.
Arch, what you got,
Casa de Shockley is going to. There you go. Okay. Yeah, I'm like Shock. I love to have different things to be able to dive into. The chips and dip thing is huge for me. We've got a buffalo chicken dip. We got different kinds of dips and stuff. You get all bound up with all that cheese and stuff like that. But my main thing is fajitas. I like to do a spicy fajita, and it sounds like the weather is going to be unbelievable on Sunday.
So I'm
going to be out on the grill doing the fajitas. Then you got all the side stuff, whether you got avocado, the cheese, the lettuce, all the different kinds of things you can sprinkle on top of it.
How we have a little guac.
Yeah, we'll have a little guac.
Sour cream.
It's weird because I like avocado, but I don't do the guac dip. Is that weird?
A little bit.
It is kind of weird,
but you know what? Like
about the same texture, same.
Well, it's the same thing.
You know,
So
algae
one's a little bit more. I don't know. I'm an idiot. I don't know. It's too stupid.
Crumpler is one of my really good buddies, and he knows like some weird things about me. And he still to this day gives me a hard time because I don't like tomatoes like at all.
Love
but
tomatoes.
brother loves ketchup now.
Yeah.
Like I need more ketchup, and he never was able to put it together. And I'm like, no, tomatoes and ketchup is completely different. Okay, yes, it's a very important ingredient when it comes to ketchup, but I don't like tomatoes by itself.
Well, it's like
What else
George
is
Carlin
weird?
said. The old comedian said, when you look at a tomato and you cut a tomato and have something's gone wrong inside the tomato because it's still in the larva stage or something like that. That's why you didn't eat it. Now you're not ever going to be able to eat a tomato.
No, I love tomato. I eat a tomato, just slice it and eat it. I eat it. You know. What other weird thing? You say a lot of weird things about you. What else?
Well,
anything else?
I mean, how long do we have?
Oh.
Like there was times when we were playing ball that me and Crump, we would get together after practice and we would have knockdown, drag out ping pong matches against each other. I'm talking about sweating
going
profusely. It's like, how long do you have?
No doubt.
Okay, so there you go. That's called breaking the show in. That's what we got going on for Super Bowl week. What you got going on for Super Bowl week? What's on the menu for you? Let us know down in the comments, all right? Let's go ahead and move on because not only has there been some developments in this organization, but the Atlanta Falcons have their new general manager, Ian Cunningham. Welcome.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of welcome to Atlanta has been going on over the past 4 weeks.
What a
and the
play,
latest
this
one
play.
is Ian Cunningham. So who is Ian Cunningham? If you missed the press conference, if you haven't been able to read everything that's been posted on AtlantaFalcons.com or any of the national media outlets, Ian Cunningham has a very impressive background. Started his career in the scouting department with the Baltimore Ravens, spent a lot of time with that organization in 2 of the more respected personnel minds in this league. Then he moved on to the Philadelphia Eagles, and it was underneath Howie Roseman, who's arguably one of the best there is in the game right now as far as talent evaluation and developing a front office. And then, of course, he spent the last 4 years with the Chicago Bears organization, working under a couple of really, really top young minds. Of course, Ryan Poles, their general manager. So that is Ian Cunningham. And that is briefly about his background. Arch, as I was watching the press conference the other day, I saw you in attendance. I saw you asking questions. So not necessarily like the question you asked and what he answered, but your first impression so far of what you've gathered around Ian Cunningham.
Yeah, he's very calculated, Rack, in how he answers stuff because he's gone through every stage of. You just documented where he's been. Think about area scout. He's been a personnel assistant, a director of college scouting, assistant director of player personnel, director of player personnel, and then assistant GM. He climbed every rung of the ladder.
Yep.
And I think that when you start thinking about a guy that's kind of honed himself for the job. Back in high school, he was talking about what he would like to do maybe with his life. He said, I want to be a GM. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many people pick that out?
Right.
Be a GM.
At such a young age.
And here he is tracking along that line, and he's done everything to me that he needed to do to build him into this position. No shortcuts for Ian Cunningham. Yep. He's a young mind. He was very sought after, you guys know, in this hiring process. And I even asked him, privately asked him, as much as we were interviewing you, how much were you interviewing the Falcons? Mm-hmm. And that was very much the case. And marrying up with the vision that Coach Stefanski has for what this team's supposed to be on the field and how he can marry that up with personnel. So I think those are all those things that come to mind for me. Is he listens extremely well. And I think that he's learned along the way that he has not skipped any steps. He's ready for this opportunity.
Shock, it was kind of an impressive ascent through the personnel ranks. And we talked about Baltimore working with Eric DeCosta, Ozzie Newsome, 2 of maybe the best that around the National Football League. But as you kind of looked at his growth throughout the front office, what kind of struck you as interesting and as I can see what the front office for the Atlanta Falcons saw in him when they offered him and decided he was going to be the next general manager?
I think Arch mentioned the way they're aligned when you're talking about what they vote. When Kevin Stefanski, Matt Ryan, all of them envisioned for this team. And the one thing that we talk about all the time, every single week, are the trenches. And you got a guy who played in the trenches, but he said, for number one, I want to build through the trenches. He said, everywhere we've had success, we started in the trenches. And that stuck out to me as, you know what, we're going to be, everybody says it's tough, physical up front and all that kind of stuff, but He actually means it. He actually is about it. You've seen him go through those steps of making sure that the trenches is number one for him. The other thing that stuck out to me was I felt like just hearing him talk, he's hungry. I feel like he told a story of how he thought this would happen sooner. And he also said, you know what, when I got passed over for those particular jobs, it hurt. And he spoke about his kids and how in those moments to be in this point where he is now, it spoke volumes that he could have a message, he could have a sign to his kids of, you know what, I got knocked down a little bit, but I was able to get through this. I was able to get to this point, and it showed me how I could overcome a lot of things, and now here we are. So I think, to me, he's not taking this moment for granted to be the GM because he's wanted this for so long, he wanted it for so bad, but also he has his kids in mind of what he wants their life to look like, or what he wants, what hard work looks like going forward. And to have that kind of vision and foresight, it tells you he's not taking this moment for granted because he knows he's got little small kids that are looking up to him to say, you know what, it didn't all work out for Dad. Dad had to take the long route. He had to work his way through it. And now look at him. He's in a position that when he was in high school, he wanted to be a general manager. And just because, hey, it didn't work out a couple times you wanted to, guess what? You stayed the course, and look where you are now. So I think that speaks volumes of the guy professionally, but also you look at the vision he has with his family and how much it means to him, and the teaching part of it, all that I think comes together to create the man that we see that is the GM and that is now running this organization along with obviously Matt Ryan and Kevin Stefanski.
Jacques, I think that's such a great point because he got to the point where he got emotional in the press conference.
Oh, yeah.
When he started talking about his road to get here, and you really eloquently laid that out, how much it means to him. He looked over at his family. He had to pause. Yep. He got tears in his eyes a little bit. So hungry is exactly the way I would say. That's great call, Jacques.
When he was talking about his family, got choked up a number of times because, he said as a father, like one of the things that you want to do is you want to be around for your family. And unfortunately, this business does not allow for that. This business calls for you to be away from your family. But the fact that he is such a role model for his kids and the fact that he leans on his wife for kind of holding everything together really got him choked up. And so that just shows you not only is he passionate about this job, but he's also passionate about the other things away from the job, which is family. And a lot of times that's like why people do things, right? Why they keep going. Why do players keep going into their 10th or 12th or 14th year? Because they're trying to do it for their family and for their kids and for the next generation. So that's a little bit about the background of Ian Cunningham. Let's talk a little bit about what does this mean for the players, guys? Because general managers, I would imagine around the league, some of them have different relationships and how they keep with the players. Some people may be more business-like. They're going to be around because they're doing their job. Some people may be around and they're more social, more, handshake to guys, be at practice, talk trash a little bit. And what is that relationship like, Arch, with the general manager? Because we know that the guys are around the head coach and the position coach all the time. And the general manager in the front office, they're around, they're on the field, but they're around in a different light, if you will. So what does this hiring do for the players that are on the team, and what kind of relationship could they maybe expect with a general manager?
Well, I think if you're a player currently on the team, obviously, I think what it does is it resets the clock a little bit. It probably resets the clock in a positive way for some that haven't been getting a chance maybe to play, and now they got a chance to reprove it. It sets the clock for some in a negative way if you haven't been performing at the highest possible level. There's a hard reboot here coming. And so your attention to detail is, as much as you'd like to think you're at the highest level all the time, has to reestablish at the highest level because there's a chance you could be here or there's a chance you might not be here. I think that's the first thing that hits me is, hey, there's a couple new sheriffs in town, and they don't know me other than what I've put on tape, and did I put my best on tape?
Yep.
And so I think that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. From a GM standpoint, a lot of times as a player, we were all out there in the field. He's a guy standing over off on the side, usually has his arms crossed like this, and you kind of wonder what's he thinking and all that kind of stuff because he's going through a lot of stuff, and it's even more paramount now because of the change in rosters throughout the season. If you're in the back end of the roster, am I playing myself hard enough? Am I do enough to make sure that I'm a part of the front end of the roster as opposed to the back end? So I think that for me, it's almost a recheck that, I better have everything be putting my best foot forward, and I better be investing in every area, whether it's watching film, how I'm interacting with my teammates in the locker rooms and meeting rooms, what am I doing in my off time? All that stuff's a restructure for me.
I mean, it's well said, and those are perfect thoughts for a player, Archie. Now, I thought you did a good job of, putting that together, because that's where my mind went as a player too. Is I remember last year we talked a lot towards the end of the season. It was, what do these guys got to play for? Do these guys really are invested like they should be? And we all, to a man, mentioned you're playing for next season. You're playing for your next contract. You're paying for the opportunity to be on maybe not this team but another team. But here you got a whole new staff who wasn't here last year. A lot of guys, they didn't see what you did in practice. They didn't see how hard you worked. So now it comes to the point of, okay, how do I put myself in front of these coaches? How do I put myself in front of this GM? And for me, I remember the first couple times we had a new head coach or whatever it was I need to be in the building. I need to be front and center. They need to see me early.
Yeah.
I need to be in there in meeting rooms. I need to be in the weight room. They need to see me out on the field. And they're like, who's that guy out here in February already putting in some work? So mentally, my mind is already going. So I know a lot of players, and Arch talked about the guys on the back end. That was me. I was one of those back end guys. Everybody knows Bijan Robinson. He don't have to be here. I mean, Drake Blunt, they know who that guy is, but what about that guy who was number 50 on the roster? That guy who was a third string who maybe played 10 plays all year. They don't know much about you. You don't have a lot of tape on you. But the first thing you could do is get in this building and let them see who you are first, and then show them by your actions that you're dedicated to it. So, yeah, you had a long season, but you have a lot to prove when you have a new staff come in. You have a whole new, executive staff up top comes in. So there's a lot of things that goes into it for those guys, like Archie just mentioned, on the back end, who are trying to figure out, do I belong on this team? But you got to show it early, especially with this new group.
What you're alluding to, Shock, is one thing that I talk to a lot of people outside of football. And I tell them it's one of the skill sets that I believe NFL players learn, and maybe a way that they're not wanting to, is that this business is not fair. It's not fair at all. And what do I mean by that? What does that have to do with this conversation? Well, we're talking about relationships of general manager to players. Well, there are certain players like Bijan Robinson, Jesse Bates, or whoever, they're going to have a really good relationship with the general manager because of what they've already shown, right, and they are an elite level player, right? But then there's certain guys like Shockley, the third string quarterback, or Rackley, the long snapper, or your fifth, sixth, seventh string wide receiver, where they may not be getting buddy-buddy to the general manager, and they know that every single rep, opportunity, and spot that they have is so important to whether or not they've got a chance on this team. For sure. And then even with all that, fellas, you guys talked about some names and everything. At the end of the day, there is a financial piece to this that doesn't really care who you are, right? Because they've said it, and they say it every offseason, is there's going to be some difficult decisions made. There was a difficult decision made in the past with Grady Jarrett, right? We saw it. He was Mr. Falcon. They moved on from him, right?
Right.
Because things just have to happen in here in the National Football League in order to make the salary cap work. And how do you end up reconstructing your roster to put yourself in the best position to win? That's what this organization is now up to now. That's the task at hand for Ian Cunningham, Kevin Stefanski, and the rest of the staff. They talked about next week they're going to be getting into meetings, and it's going to be all about roster prep as they get ready for the combine and free agency, and how are they going to turn this roster over and put them in the best position to win in 2026.
It's such an interesting position to be in because one, you establish relationships, and we all have been in locker rooms and marry up with who's in the building and different things. But it's not Ian Cunningham's job to be your best friend.
Not at all.
His job is to come in here and build a roster.
Sure.
And so it's really different, I think, than really any other kind of job scenario. You don't really establish a relationship, and as much as you think it's kind of superficial, and there are guardrails on it and those kind of things. And I think Ian Cunningham, with what he's gone through, to this point, has a really good idea what that looks like and how that feels, because as much as you come out and shake your hand and stuff like that, he's also, I'm looking to upgrade this roster. And I think you guys touched on that pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, his job now is he's at, you could call it the top, but there's a couple of tops. Obviously, Matt Ryan up there as well. But, football operations now falls in his lap. And it's like all the decisions that are made, the decisions that are not made, the depth that is there, the depth that is not there, those ultimately fall on his shoulders. We talked about it. He said this is the job that he wanted, so he understands everything that comes along with it. But there is a tremendous amount of pressure on people like Ian Cunningham, like Kevin Stefanski, even like a Matt Ryan, because of the responsibility placed on those guys' shoulders. Now, we did talk about a new name in Ian Cunningham. There was also a new name that I wanted to get these guys to comment about, because it's the new offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons, which is going to be Tommy Rees. And if you followed college football, you know about Tommy Rees, former Notre Dame quarterback, but he has quickly ascended his way through the coaching ranks and taking everything that he's learned as a quarterback and now climbing up the NFL ranks, and he's going to be the next offensive coordinator. So one thing that I was reading about, Shock, I wanted to come back to you about, okay, what is Tommy Rees? What does he like to do? What's he paramount? And one of the things I read was he wants to establish the run game and he wants to play physical at the line of scrimmage. And you talked about what? Trenches, right?
Yeah.
So my question to you, maybe on a broad scale, Shock, is what can Falcons fans expect with Tommy Rees now as the offensive coordinator?
Well, I think we already talked about the alignment of what, from Matt Ryan to Ian Cunningham to Kevin Stefanski, what they're going to build this offense around, which is physicality, which is in the trenches, which is being able to run the football, but also being able to marry all that together, run and pass, play action, boot game, getting your quarterback on the perimeter, making things look the same formation-wise, but also it's going to look totally different with the type of runs that you have. And I think, obviously, coming up through the ranks, like you mentioned, in the way he's came up, obviously he's a guy with a really cerebral mind of what he wants to do offensive-wise. I think he's kind of went on the same path that Stefanski was, where he had to take over. I think he took over like week 10 last season for the Browns, and his ability to be able to, get those guys in position. You're talking about having to deal with multiple quarterbacks when he was in Cleveland, trying to figure out what's best for them. But you look at the style in which that they did things, and you look at what was in Cleveland with a guy like Quishon Junkins. Looks very similar to a guy that wears number 7 around here. Not as good, but has the same kind of qualities of, hey, we want to go stretch zone. We want to get you outside, get you running one way, and then we cut it back. Then come back. You can run inside. You can run, duo. You can run play action off of it, but it all marries together under center in a gun. And I think Tommy Rees is a similar guy in Stefanski and why he felt he was okay to give him the reins to be able to call the plays. And he's seen him do it. He's done it at the highest level in college football, but also has had opportunities to do it here. And a guy that you think is going to come in and understand playing the quarterback position in this league, what it's going to take. But also, like you mentioned, being able to run the football is paramount for any quarterback that you have that's going to be playing quarterback here for the Falcons. Going to run football, you're going to help the quarterback out, but you're also going to be very multiple in how you attack defenses. And that's what's going to be interesting to see, is how he blends all that together with the talent that's already here. But I think this is a guy who has the capabilities to get it done.
Former Notre Dame quarterback, Arch, offensive coordinator for the Irish, spent some time at Alabama as the offensive coordinator, then made the leap to the NFL. It's been a couple of years now with Kevin Stefanski, coaching tight ends his first year, and then getting more involved in the coordinator position. And you got to think that a guy like Tommy Rees and Kevin Stefanski are excited. Again, we're going to kind of take contract stuff out of it. If there's one thing I have a pretty good feeling about, is Bijan Robinson's going to be here next year. But him and Drake London, this offensive line, there's pieces there. And I think that's probably what was alluring to all of these guys, Tommy Rees, Kevin Stefanski, Ian Cunningham, is there is some promising talent on this roster. If they can just add to it, complement it, there's a chance that they can break through. They were one game One game away from the postseason last year. Think about all those games that kind of slipped through the fingers, and it would have been a completely different finish to the year.
Yeah, let's not forget this was the number 8 rushing team in the National Football League last season. So you're talking about coming in and dominating the line of scrimmage and coming off the ball and running it with the guy that led the league in yards from scrimmage in Bijan Robinson. And there's going to be some pieces they're going to have to add around, and we'll have another show that talks about free agency and all those kind of things. So we don't need to dive into that. I think one of the things that I know fans are concerned about, Tommy's a young coach. There's no question about that. Probably still trying to cut his teeth a little bit on this thing. He and Stefanski have worked together, so I think that's a positive. Their vision of what they want to do is a positive. This is a different roster than that they had in Cleveland, so there's some positives attached to that as well. The thing that I think that people are forgetting is, how do you get better at anything you do?
Just keep doing it. Repetition.
There's going to be an improvement, right? The more times you do it, the better you're going to be. Yep. And so I don't think that's being counted into this thing as we see the numbers that, okay, this is what Cleveland did last year offensively, and wow, that's what we're getting. That's not the case at all, because I'd like to think that anybody, and I don't care what your walk of life is, that the more you get a chance to do it, the better you're going to be at it. Yeah. So you've got to we talk about players in their first year. They're exponentially better the second season. So why wouldn't that be the case with a guy that calls plays in the National Football League? This is a guy that had to go through a really rough patch, like Shock's talking about, with the dancing thing that was going on at quarterback, the moving chairs going on at quarterback last year. The thing that I like is that the head coach is an offensive guy, comes from the offensive side of the football, and your offensive coordinator have worked together. They have a similar idea of what they want to be, and then you factor in the fact that you are going to improve. There's no way you can improve with the information you've garnered either by trial or by fire, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. You're going to be a better version of yourself this year. And then you get that rejuvenation thing. Anybody gets a shot of adrenaline. Everybody's had a shot of adrenaline for some reason, that they just something's happened and you feel that adrenaline. That's what Tommy Rees is getting moving here. All of a sudden, number 7 is a guy he can hand the football to. Number 5 is that dog on the outside he's going to throw the football to. He's got an offensive line that was 8th in the league in running the football. He's got some pieces to work with. So there's some questions, and I'm not trying to paint a scenario where he's going to have all the answers, but guess what? I've talked about it a number of times. The other side of the ball gets paid to do their job too. And so you're going to run into some roadblocks, but how do you adjust and those kind of things? The thing I've heard about Tommy is that he's a bright young mind that would mirror some of the guys that we hold in high esteem now. And I'm talking about some of the similar feelings you have about a young Kyle Shanahan, about a young Sean McVay, some of those guys, Matt LaFleur, some of these guys that have risen to a level. Yep. And there's some of those characteristics that those guys have had. I hear people saying that they see some of those things in Tommy as well. Now, again, that's got to come to play, but I like the direction he's headed.
Yeah, listen, if you're one of those that's going to be out there criticizing young, you better get with the new age of the NFL, because when we were playing, guys, like I think back to, obviously Dan Reeves had been around a long time, and I'm thinking around the other coaches that have been around a long time, Mike Holmgren, Brian Billick, right? These are all the head coaches that were coaching when I came into the league. But then now you talked about some of the younger names. Look at Joe Brady in Buffalo. He's young. Look at Kevin O'Connell. Look at there's so many guys that are young. Like Kyle Shanahan was a young pup. Now we look at him. Super Bowl. Yeah, now we look at him as older and experienced. But you don't remember like how young him and Mike McDaniel and all these guys were when they were working up in Washington in that Shanahan tree. That's what's going on now. It's like the NFL has turned into these young, bright minds, both offensively and defensively, and that's just the new wave of this game now. Sure. And Tommy Rees is the next one for the Atlanta Falcons. So, guys, before we wrap up, let's kind of talk about, now that we've got the front office and pretty much the coaching staff in place, Shock, give the fans kind of a snapshot of what the next, let's just call it 4 weeks, is going to look like for this organization as they continue to move and progress toward the 2026
Well, I think
season.
The biggest thing for this collection, this crew, is getting together with all the different pieces to figure out what this roster can look like and what do you want to do with it. And you heard Ian Cunningham talk about it in his press conference on Tuesday. He said on Wednesday, I'm sitting down with the salary cap people. Monday, we start draft prep. I mean, there's no stopping. They're hitting this thing running, and now you figure out, okay, we got some free agents. We got some guys who are on fifth year. We got guys to figure out what do we want to do with these guys, and then we move into, okay, here's free agency. Here comes the combine. Here comes the draft. All this kind of stuff is aligned for you to say, all right, this is where we start. So I think the next, 2 or 3, 4 weeks, it comes down to this roster. You dive deeper into, okay, this guy, does he fit what we want to do? Mm-hmm. Does this guy really, as a guy that we feel like can give us a boost on the offense, defense, and special teams? You get all the coordinators together and say, all right, go on the offensive side and say, hey, does this guy we feel like give us a chance to go win ball games? If he doesn't, hey, let's go find somebody else. That's what those conversations are about right now, and it's brutal as that.
Yep.
You're going to sit down, you're going to talk through, does this guy fit the financial piece of it? You talked about it.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of guys who, hey, they've been really good for us the last 3-4 years, but maybe they don't fit what we want to do going forward. And like you mentioned, this is not we got 2-3 years to get going. No. This is a roster that we've talked about for the last, year and a half, 2 years is ready to go win right now. So this roster is about now. Ian Cunningham said it in his press conference. He said, we're not about the future. We're about right now. We're not going to give up stuff for the future to build. We got to go build right now, and I think that's what it's about. So the next 3-4 weeks is finding out about this roster, and then you figure out, okay, the roster tells me where do we go in free agency? Where do we go in the combine? Where do we go in the draft? All that kind of stuff works hand in hand, and that's what's going to happen over the next few days.
And we were talking, Arch Shock already mentioned it, the last few weeks of the season, like, what are these guys playing for? Well, guess what's going to happen? This front office and this coaching staff is going to go look at the last couple of games and see, what did we get out of this player? Mm-hmm. What did we get when there was nothing on the line, right? And can we build around that? And if we can't, Arch, it's like, all right, hey, we have 2 or 3 holes right here. These have to get addressed. Like, these are all those tough conversations Shock's talking about that are about to happen.
Yeah, you guys nailed it. They're trying to mesh what they have on the roster now with the vision that they're talking about. The strength on both sides of the football up front. How do you marry the back end of that, whether it's the skills guys on offense or the guys in the back end on defense? How much does that marry up with what you want to do? You have a pretty good idea what your philosophy is defensively. Doesn't mean that Jeff Ulbrich doesn't want to add a piece or two here or there in that defensive group that was so good, 57 sacks or whatever it was, tied the all-time record for Falcons in a sack season. You had 2 safeties that stole the ball, 8 times in the back end. You love the way that looks, but you still want to maybe do some things back there. Those are some of the things that Ian will be sitting down with the coaching staff and evaluating. And certainly a lot of the eyes from a Falcons fan is on the offensive side of the football. And right now, the biggest question is obviously about the quarterback. And Michael Penix is a guy that is busting his ass right now in trying to get back from the injury. And I've heard people say on local radio and stuff, what does that matter? Who's going to be the quarterback the first week of the season? Well, none of that can happen unless he's working his rear end off right now to get himself in position to do that. And it feels good to me to know that my quarterback potentially for opening day is doing everything he possibly can in the first part of February to make sure he's ready for training camp or ready for that first game. Yep. That's that work ethic. That's that attention to detail that he's going to need to show when he gets a new game plan from Tommy Rees, or when they start installing in early April because they get the extra time because of the new staff on trying to absorb a new offense. If he's working that hard just to do squats and do all the kind of things he can do to strengthen his knee so he can do the stuff that Shock's talking about, bootlegging, and some of the kind of things they're going to do, and then I know that he's going to apply that same attention to detail to absorbing the offense and then ultimately leading his guys, lining people up. I'm excited about it. And so rest assured that one of the feature pieces of your offense in Michael Penix is doing everything he can possibly do to make sure he's ready to go opening day.
One thing I want to add is Arch mentioned the attention to detail, and this has to go with the new general manager, Ian Cunningham. This didn't happen in the press conference, but I watched an interview he did, and we talk about the players and what they play for and how do you evaluate these guys, and this process starts now. I saw an interview where he talked about there's certain things I look at when I look at tape, or I look at practice film, or I look at a game film. I look at body language. What happens when a guy gets beat, or what happens when a guy does play well? How does a guy take coaching on the sideline? All those little things can tell me a lot about the player without even talking about his physical talents that are on the field. All that kind of stuff gives me an insight into, okay, what kind of player is this? Is this the kind of guy that we know if things are going bad, he's not going to sulk, he's not going to be in the tank about it? Or if he's trying to take coaching, how does he take coaching? I can watch all that by sitting up in the booth, looking down, watching this guy. And those are the attention to detail that you say you love from your general manager, because he's not just looking at the talent part of it. He's going to go talk to those other coaches and say, you know what happened back in week 7 when he got beat versus so-and-so and they were picking on him? How did he respond to that? Mm-hmm. That's going to tell him a lot about the player that the player might not even know about before he makes a decision on this is the guy we want to bring back. So there are so many things that are going to take place during this process of which guy fits our personnel, which guy fits our team, just visually talking to people, but also watching how guys took to certain things that happened in game or in practice that gives them an idea, oh, I know what kind of kid this is.
See, Shock's got an interview like tomorrow for assistant general manager. We don't have assistant general manager. Shock.
No.
Listen,
good breakdown, brother.
It all matters. Every little bit matters. So hopefully you like the breakdown here. We told you that we're going to keep you up to speed on all of the big moments that happen in the offseason. And speaking of which, what is coming next for all of you? Why is he pointing at us? Well, the next thing's coming up is now that we have just gotten through the All-Star games, right? All of the juniors and seniors have played those games. The next one is the Combine coming up, right? So just about 3 weeks, coaches will be heading to the Combine to look at the next wave of players. And then after that, shortly will be coming free agency opens, right? So then we will get a chance of see what veterans will be coming to this organization. And then obviously after that, you'll be leading into the draft and we'll see what rookies will be added to this organization and what moves they end up making in the draft to potentially end up stockpiling some more picks. I don't know. Ian Cunningham just said, I like a lot of picks. He said that in his press conference.
Say that. He did say
I like options. He said he likes at-bats, swings at the plate. All right. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this one. We'll be back to the next time that we get some big developing news or stuff that we want to get out to you. And if you want to get that information, like on YouTube, make sure you're liking, subscribing, tapping that bell button.
Tap in.
Anything so that we can alert you when new content is coming out. So make sure you're paying attention, and we'll try to bring you as much as we humanly can bring you. So thanks so much for joining us. Falcons Audible presented by AT&T. That's Shock. That's Arch. I'm Rax. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you the next time. See you, everybody. Enjoy the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Fajitas, baby.